If you're heading off for a winter trip to Japan, you're in for some spectacular sights. I hope my suitcase packing tips will help you along the way. Firstly, some tips on clothing. In Japan in winter, clothing choices are all about layering. While you might need 3 or more layers outside, you'll be much warmer once you arrive at indoor venues such as shopping malls, bars and restaurants, and you'll likely need to peel off a layer or 2. If you're opting for a minimum of 3 layers, I highly recommend thermals as an absolutely necessary base layer. I also totally recommend the Uniqlo brand of tops and bottoms with Heat Tech ultra warm fabric. As you can see here, my gorgeous other half banger is also a fan. A quick note about Uniqlo. It was founded in Japan and there are about 100 Uniqlo stores in Tokyo alone. We found thermals less expensive to buy at Uniqlo in Japan, but I can also recommend buying a set before you head off on your trip at your local Uniqlo store or online so that you're warm on arrival. I also suggest buying a couple of pairs of Uniqlo socks, and my preference is those with individual toes for warmth and comfort, particularly if you're doing the 20,000 steps or so a day that visitors seem to average in Japan. I also purchased some snow socks from Temu, which were great quality, warm and comfortable, and a really good price. Back to clothing layers, and I recommend a middle layer over your thermals for extra warmth. I opted for a few different types of tops for my middle layer. I packed a lighter knit, which I often wore over an oversized work shirt. I also took a thicker, warmer polo neck pullover. I took 2 pullovers, particularly for the snow areas. My other middle layers included a light cashmere top and a light ribbed knit top. My outer layer, mainly for outdoors, was an insulated water-resistant jacket from Volcom. I'd call an insulated jacket an essential for winter in Japan. Another essential is gloves, and not just for the snowy areas. I bought this cute pair from a store in Australia called Wild Earth, which has a great range of adventure wear. We also wore beanies wherever we were, mainly for head warmth, but also maybe for aesthetics to a degree. For the bottom half, if you haven't already heard of them, can I please introduce you to Fleecy-lined jeans. I love these. I bought mine off Temu for about 26 Australian dollars and wasn't sure what to expect at first. But they look really good, they're super comfortable and they're super warm. These are the only item of clothing I didn't wear thermals under. The quality is great and I can confirm the fleecy lining has remained completely intact. I also took another pair of comfortable jeans, and in Japan I picked up a pair of lovely ribbed knit long pants. These are also really comfortable and look really flattering, but the fabric is quite light. The final pair of pants I packed, other than my thermals, were snow or ski pants, which I bought on eBay because I was having ski and snowboard lessons at Nozawa Onsen. A hot tip: if you're plus size like me and having a first crack at skiing or snowboarding and you're hiring some ski gear, I recommend checking sizing availability when you're making hire arrangements. I wasn't able to find ski pants to fit on either the men's or women's hire racks at my hire store. Okay, for the gentlemen, these are my husband's staples, along with thermals and a couple of flannelette shirts. He's a bit partial to khaki. So he also has an outer thick insulating jacket, which is resistant to water, wind and cold. We got ours on sale from Volcom. His middle layer was a warm pullover from Anaconda. On sale, it was just $20, so make sure you look out for great winter sale deals at Anaconda. And I have to talk up these pants. We bought them from a workwear store in Tokyo called Workland. These are men's pants, but would also be suitable for women. They're very soft, but also very warm and super comfortable. The brand is Gladiator. If you have time, check out Workland for winter and work gear. It's in Koto City in Tokyo, and it's easy to get to by train from the central Tokyo area. Before I move on to shoes, I want to preface my shoe choice by talking about how stylish Japanese people are. Everyone out and about looks so neatly dressed and well put together. And sometimes style takes precedence over functionality. Back to my shoes. I knew I was going to be walking a lot and that water-resistant joggers were essential in winter. But I didn't want them to look daggy when everyone else around is looking so smart. So I opted for a bright colour to give a bit of an edge to my otherwise fairly mundane outfits. I had also packed some fur-lined boots, but I never wore them, and I pretty much lived in my joggers away from the snowy areas. In the snow and ski village areas, it was predominantly gumboots for me. Because I'm not a skier or snowboarder, which I confirmed while I was over there, I chose to avoid the expense of buying proper snow boots. I picked up these gumboots for around $30 Australian at Workland, and they were perfect for the snow, worn with snow spikes. And I reckon they're a little bit funky. We spent some time in the winter wonderlands of the Japanese Alps and also Koyasan in the Key Mountains. I have to say the absolute safety essential for snowy areas like these is detachable snow crampons or snow spikes for the bottom of your shoes. Get these before you go to the snow. I know someone who slipped on snow and broke a wrist on their way to buy some of these. You can get them at reasonable prices at some hardware stores, and in Tokyo there's a precinct for adventure gear called the Kanda Ogawamachi Sporting Goods District. I think that's right. You'll find quite a selection at the different stores there. We paid between $11 and $20 Australian for our snow spikes, and they worked very effectively and were much needed. Just looking here at the Merrell water-resistant shoes my husband Banger purchased and wore everywhere. They were very comfortable for him, and they don't show a great deal of wear, despite him likely taking some 500,000 steps during our last 4-week trip to Japan. Banger was also fortunate to pick up a pair of Sorel snow boots at a huge weekend thrift market in Tokyo. He paid less than $50 Australian, and these normally retail new for over $300. So it's worth checking out those markets if you have time. Another tip with shoes if you're intending to visit a lot of temples in Japan. Usually it's etiquette to remove shoes if you're entering a temple, and some restaurants and other establishments have the same requirement. So if it's an effort to take your shoes on and off, you might want to consider laceless shoes suitable for walking, like some of the styles offered by Skechers. Some other packing tips, and I can also recommend using packing cubes to organise different types of clothing and accessories. They also help keep your packing tight and preserve space in your suitcase. These are available at quite reasonable prices at most variety stores like Kmart, Big W and Target. My husband labelled his own, and I've hidden some of his spelling errors, but you can also buy pre-labelled ones at stores like Kmart. I purchased some through Temu, and really the same quality bags weren't much more expensive at Big W. Another item you might like to consider taking is a backpack. I carried a backpack everywhere. It allowed me to store layers of clothing, including my gloves and beanie, once I got too warm. And the pockets were useful for storing a notebook we carried to collect stamps at the various places we visited. We also had another notebook to collect goshuin, or souvenir calligraphy, at various temples. And because there aren't many rubbish bins on the streets in Japan, we carried a recyclable bag with us to store our rubbish until we came across a bin or returned to our hotel. So the backpack was very useful for carting around our rubbish bag, and as well as our purchases we picked up along the way. Some other items you might find useful. On one trip I packed a bum bag but didn't use it myself, mainly because it didn't have enough space for my needs. You might find a coin purse really convenient for storing coins if you intend donating to the offertory boxes at temples and shrines. I bought one on eBay, a leather one that deteriorated quite quickly, so I recently bought a better one which also holds cards and is very convenient for travelling. I took a sleeping mask but only used it on the plane trip really, and found I didn't need it at our hotels. We also took a few foldable bags that fold down to pocket size, We used a couple to hold shopping items, including lots of souvenirs, and another one for laundry. You'll see in this clip a rainbow coloured suitcase strap to hold the suitcase together. These were really common amongst travellers on our last trip, so if you're looking for an option to easily identify your suitcase, you might like to choose another variety of this. While we're on the suitcase topic, if you're planning to move around a bit between cities and hotels, and if you're going for more than a week, and if you're using the amazing Japanese rail system, my recommendation is a medium-sized suitcase rather than a large one and rather than carry-on, particularly in winter when you've got a lot of bulky items. We made the rookie mistake of taking large suitcases on our first trip to Japan, and I found it rather stressful. Not only do you need to haul your suitcases through busy train stations, you'll also likely have to avoid certain times of travel because it's a bit hectic trying to squeeze a huge suitcase into a crammed carriage. Even on the Shinkansen, the bullet trains between cities, it can be stressful finding space for large suitcases, and they don't fit in the overhead storage compartments. I found the medium-sized suitcase much easier to manage than the larger one. If you're like us, you'll need to think about extra space for souvenirs and pharmacy products that you're taking back home. We paid for additional weight on the return flight and bought an inexpensive but durable carry bag, which Banger has slung over his shoulder here, for our extra cargo. We found a suitable one at a 3 coins variety store for less than $10 Australian. During your visit, if you're moving between cities, you might also like to consider a luggage forwarding service. We looked into it, but our luggage had to be organised a day ahead of our intended departure, and we just weren't that organised. I believe it's a popular service, particularly if you're travelling with children. One more thing about luggage. When we took an overnight trip from Osaka to Koyasan, we stored our luggage at the Namba train station in their storage lockers for 2 days and just took our backpacks on our trip. It cost less than $20 Australian to store all our luggage for 2 days, and I believe you can store gear in the lockers for up to 3 days. So that's my packing tips in a nutshell. Thanks for watching, and I hope some of these come in handy. Enjoy your trip, it's going to be very difficult not to, and please look out for more Japan videos, which we'll be uploading soon.